Let's face it, the majority of people are also. I'm scared to tell you directly that they hide because they don't like you. Behind hollow praises and phony smiles, I've experienced both forced politeness and mistakenly believing that someone was only a buddy to discover that they had been secretly hoping for my fall. It's harsh, but this is the truth. If you fail to see the warning indications, you'll ultimately waste your time and energies on those who, deep down, are unable to comprehend you. So let's get over the BS and discuss the warning indications that someone dislikes you but is keeping it a secret. It's better than what you hear. To confront reality rather than endure denial, which they constantly make fun of. We are all aware of that one person's shortcomings, who enjoys making jokes, particularly when the joke is on you. They will make fun of you, peculiarities, errors, and your small flaws, and they accomplish it via a saying, "I'm just playing with you," with a smile. At first glance, it appears innocent, but let's not. To be honest, these jokes are frequently more, rather than merely joking around. They estimated carefully disguising digs as humor intended to gradually erode your sense of self-worth by. But I recall a period when I was close to a person who appeared to have, saying something regarding my attire, even the tasks I was working on, the way I spoke working on. I initially dismissed it with a laugh, believing that it was all for fun. But as time passed, I observed a pattern that jokes were always directed at what I thought. My weaknesses are never my strengths. I started second shortly after that, speculating on whether or not I was the issue if these defects were as they glared as though they were. This is when the dispute begins. Those who constantly complain about your flaws aren't acting affectionately. They're experimenting to discover how you'll be treated disrespectfully, which is a sophisticated manipulation technique that allows them to establish control while maintaining their telling you in your place. No ambiguous terms, that you're underneath, arguably the most pernicious aspect of them escape punishment, since we've been conditioned to think that if we are unable to, come on, we're the ones that have the issue. But let's change the script. I'm come to inform you that it's improper to defend yourself when a joke actually goes too far. If you are worthy of being in those who encourage you rather than those who bring you down for a cheap laugh. Genuine friends don't have to mention to feel better about your imperfections. They acknowledge your strengths themselves and assist you in resolving your flaws without making you feel bad of the joke, which I've witnessed repeatedly. And once more, those who permit these types of jokes slip because they believe it's simpler to maintain the calm rather than creating a stir. But here's the profound truth that enables others to insult you, even in the most sincere way, is a slippery slope, beginning with little remarks. But those jokes can eventually wear you down and cause you to doubt your value, and the more you give it permission, the more they will persist until you start to have doubts. Yourself, since you were unwilling to appear to. I had to learn this the hard way, since I'm sensitive. How I came to understand that by laughing together with was granting them authorization to continue. I participated in my own disdain. Wasn't until I began to resist, establishing limits, that I observed a change in more than simply how they handled me. But I stopped when I saw myself allowing their statements to define me and began taking responsibility for my story. Thus, this is my recommendation is that the next time someone makes don't just laugh when someone makes fun of you. Often consider whether this is truly humorous or is there anything else happening here. Additionally, if the latter is the response, don't be hesitant to confront them. It could be uncomfortable. It could possibly put an end to the being friends, while maintaining your dignity is considerably more valuable than someone's misguided humor in the end. Life's also short to be surrounded by people who is unable to recognize your worth. If the concept of friendship is continuously highlighting your shortcomings, then it's time to make new acquaintances who are genuinely care about you. You won't ever have to. You are depressed to feel good about yourself. Thus, speak up, stand tall, and don't allow anyone make you are. The second punchline is that they compliment sting similar to insults. Everyone has experienced them, offers you a praise. But rather than feeling happy, you're left with an aftertaste as harsh as you've recently received a velvet glove slap. This type of compliment is what makes you stop and ask yourself, was that either an insult or a compliment? And here's the brutal reality that frequently combines elements of both. These sarcastic remarks are a delicate, almost cunning method for people to discredit you while feigning to be. I recall a period of time when I was completing a large project that I was quite pleased with myself after putting in. After many long hours of labor, I eventually shared it with several co-workers, one among them, someone I believed to be the supporter grinned and said, "Wow, this is genuinely quite good for someone like on the surface." I was stunned as I stood there. Although it appeared to be a compliment, those for someone like you, the final few sentences struck. What did that do? It hit me like a ton of bricks. Was I not supposed to be mean at all? Able to perform well work, which is the contentious issue here. These purported compliments are mixed with an ulterior motive. They're not supposed to encourage you. They're made to. It's a power play with you in your place. Manner for the individual offering the praise to demonstrate their dominance while making you question your own skills. They're claiming that even though you're trying, you'll never be as proficient as I am. Despite being poisonous, it's encased in such a lovely bundle that you nearly overlook poison within. Let's be honest, backhanded compliments are frequently insecure themselves. They observe your potential and your strong points, and it's frightening. So they employ these cunning little jabs to make you doubt yourself and stay in second place, to ensure that you don't go too high. They seem to be patting you on the back while keeping you restrained. On the other hand, this is where it becomes more contentious. We've all completed it at some point, perhaps not purposefully, yet we've all allowed our insecurities manifest themselves as a compliment intended to serve as a reminder someone else from their location. However, you are not required to read the deep message. Accept this covert animosity you possess, the authority to deny it in order to observe it for what it truly is, a mirror of their personal insecurities, are not a reflection on your value. When someone remarks that you're more intelligent, this is better than how you appear. Given your inexperience, you must accept it completely and call it out for what it is, even though it creates uncomfortable, since if you don't, letting them control your perception yourself, and you should use that power. I've learned to never give anything to anyone, to appreciate these praises for what they are, someone's reflection in a mirror, someone else's fears, and when you notice that how its sting is diminished, rather than you may almost giggle when you internalize it. Since, ultimately, there are more is said about them in words than ever before. Will about you, therefore this is what I'm going to do. When someone compliments me in a backhanded manner, I don't ignore it. I'll reply with "Thank you." But what do you meaning that it compels people to face the slight concealed in their remarks, and typically it places them on the suddenly they realize that it's fantastic that they're not playing their game, how fast their song shifts, the don't let anyone wear a veil. Takeaway: define yourself by your negativity, whether it's a kind friend who is envious of a co-worker or even a relative recalls this. Your value cannot be disputed. Praise should make you feel better, not sad. If someone's remarks depress you when you're doubting yourself, it's time to instead consider their motives. Is too brief to squander on individuals who cannot truly rejoice in your accomplishments. Be in the company of those who see your worth, and don't hesitate to let you to understand it without any restrictions. Attached 3, they obliquely leave you out. From planning, the minor details that The most striking thing is understanding that you supposed buddies inadvertently neglected to invite you to the party, the supper, or they'll swear it on that weekend getaway. Was a mistake that it was a final tiny detail, or worse, they'll think you. We're already too busy. But let's face it, these are social, they are not accidents. Exclusion in its most cunning manifestation, and it's an obvious indication that your value has decreased as you believe I have been receiving. I recall this too many times. One weekend, I checked my phone and noticed images showing a bunch of buddies having a fantastic time at a gathering I would have enjoyed going to the kicker, but not a single someone told me about it in advance. Later, when I mentioned it in passing, they were full of justifications, so we assumed you were occupied, or it was so last-minute plan. But I knew in my heart that if they would have wanted me there, made sure I was aware of it, and this is where this type of debate arises, of exclusion is more than just carelessness. It's intentional, and serves as a means of sending a communication without uttering a single word. They don't wish to have you there, yet they lack the courage to confront you directly instead. They're hoping you'll simply disappear from the group in silence without making a fuss. It's hostile and passive-aggressive, cowardly, but it's also very prevalent. This topic isn't discussed too often. Since it's simpler to act as though it's not occurring, it's simpler to accept the reasons to persuade yourself that it was actually only an error, rather than confront the unpleasant reality that you're being pushed out. Yet the matter is that if you continue to accept the excuses, you're permitting them to continue excluding. You're allowing them to determine your position in their lives instead of taking authority over your own story. For some time I had to learn this the hard way. Remained silent, allowing those unintentional exclusions slip in the hopes that perhaps tomorrow I'd be included eventually. But then I understood. Perhaps by being quiet, I was permitting I want to be regarded as an after giving it some thought. I took action. Contentious, I began pointing them out. I would say, "Hey, I noticed you guys went. Why no one went out last weekend?" It wasn't simple to invite me, and it undoubtedly made things uncomfortable, but it additionally compelled them to face their behavior. And you'll be surprised to learn that the dynamics altered. Some became defensive, and others attempted to compensate. But the bottom line was obvious, and I refused to allow. Without a struggle, they exclude me. Here's if people want you to be in the deep message their lives, they will endeavor to. Regardless of how last minute, include you. The strategy is that if they don't, it's time to reconsider the importance of those connections. You should have individuals that don't make you feel you're pursuing them all the time. Genuine friends' acceptance or focus. Remember to invite them. They make certain that you're present since they actually love spending time with you. So if you discover you're being quietly left out of, don't ignore it. Instead, face it head-on. It poses challenging queries, and be ready for the responses, even if they are not what you'd like to hear, at the end of the day, knowing where you would rather stand than be left. Wondering why you were excluded once more. Always keep in mind that you are not a fallback option. You should surround yourself with people who value you. Those who treat you as they're only occupied when it comes to... We've all heard that before, I'm sure of it. Sorry, I can't hang out right now because I'm busy. After all, it's the ideal justification for who is not occupied, but what occurs when you begin to see a trend that they're consistently accessible for others to upload images of their excursions to catch up with each other friends. However, in your case, they're suddenly overloaded, and it's frigid, harsh reality that they're not overly busy, you're just too busy. I've been in that frustrating circumstance more often than I'm willing to acknowledge, that I recall contacting a friend with whom I was once close, attempting to always schedule a time to catch up. I proposed an idea that they would have an "I apologize for working late. I have a lot on my plate. Perhaps next week I would observe them interacting with other, somehow, folks are having a terrific time. Constantly managing to find time for everyone else took longer than I did. Compared to what I'd like to acknowledge, the pattern of the communication they were sending made it obvious that I wasn't a priority. No longer in their lives, this is where the when dispute arises. We've seen embrace being busy as a legitimate excuse for disregarded. But let's be honest, folks make time for the things and people they care about. Regarding if they're always occupied when it comes to you, it has nothing to do with it concerns their priorities and schedule. It's difficult to accept because it compels you to face the fact that they may not value you as much as to you. They represent the brutal truth. That being busy is frequently a kind way of stating that I don't want to interact with. They can more easily place the blame on you, their schedule, rather than acknowledge that they've decided to exclude you from their method of living is passive-aggressive, of maintaining a distance from you without having to handle the conflict that would result from informing you of the inactuality. They wish to keep you in debt, without really investing, just in case I've been on both sides of the relationship. On the other hand, there were moments when I was the one offering justifications since I was unsure of how to inform someone that I'd left the friendship behind. But being on the receiving end gave me a useful lesson. It's preferable to be truthful, even if it's more awkward than stringing someone in addition to justifications. When I eventually called out my friend on being constantly busy, although the conversation was unpleasant, it was necessary. It gave me the clarity I needed to move on and invest my time and vitality in partnerships where I was appreciated. And this is the deep message: both time and your energy are valuable. Don't squander it on unworthy individuals. Made the effort to accommodate you if someone is always too busy to spend time with you. To reconsider the relationship you're worthy of being in, those that can't wait to see you. Make an attempt to include you in their lives, not simply when it's convenient for them, but because they actually enjoy your company. It's crucial to realize, because individuals change, and so do partnerships, that we occasionally cling to. Those who are habitually nostalgic or afraid of being alone themselves, even when they've obviously moved on, yet letting go has many advantages. Go ahead and admit that you deserve more than a person's spare time. It's not about being demanding or needy. Regarding having enough self-worth to stroll, stay away from people that don't respect you. 5. They stay away from physical contact, such as let's discuss the elephant in the plague. Physical contact in the room, or more accurately, the absence of it. We're not merely discussing amorous partnerships in this physical. One of the fundamental human interactions is contact. Method of communication and trust building. So when someone leaves, what does that mean? Of their means to stay away from even the most informal touch, the response isn't to, providing a strong indication that they feel uneasy in your presence. And now is the moment to listen. I once had a co-worker who appeared to flinch whenever, the moment I extended my hand to shake hands, or initially, I gave a warm pat on the back, believed I was having hallucinations, but then I saw that they weren't simply me. Touching and cozy with everyone else, but in my case, it seemed as though I had the plague. I quickly came to the realization that they refrained from making physical contact was more than a peculiarity. It was the intentional attempt to maintain me at here's the contentious part, distance. Physical interaction is a normal component of human communication, and when someone constantly stays away from it, they're expressing discomfort or discomfort connection. Certain individuals simply aren't touchy-feely, which is acceptable, but when selective, when they're comfortable embracing, stiffen up around you, but others' warning sign that something is amiss may not despise you enough to express it directly. yet their nonverbal cues are talking non-stop and lettings be. To be honest, we've all experienced both aspects of the calculation. Perhaps you've leaned back or declined a handshake when someone approached you too closely because you simply didn't sense the atmosphere, or perhaps you've been the recipient and pondering the reason. It seems like someone constantly flinches when you're around. It's awkward, and it frequently indicates that the relationship is not as solid as you would want to ponder. But this is the most profound. In actuality, physical contact is a basic component of interpersonal connection, is the way we demonstrate warmth, compassion, and trust. When someone stays away from you, they're merely avoiding contact, intimacy, vulnerability, and proximity. They are avoiding contact with you both literally and metaphorically, and that's a definite sign that there is a fundamental problem with the partnership. I now know to be mindful of these clues, even if it's difficult to acknowledge what, implying that there was a period of time when I disregarded the signals, persuading myself that the unwillingness of someone to approach was only a characteristic of my personality. But the more I thought about it, the more I understood that it was about our connection and me. When I at last faced the situation, it resulted in some difficult discussions, and sometimes the conclusion of the connection, but it also released me from the aggravation of questioning why things felt strange. Thus, this is the profound message. Pay attention to the warning indications when someone stays away from you physically. It's not merely a preference, but a declaration regarding their degree of comfort and relationship with you. If you observe, don't be scared to address this trend. It could result in a more profound comprehension, or it may indicate that the partnership is not as strong as you. In any case, it's preferable to face reality rather than continue to live in denial. And keep in mind that you deserve partnerships in which physical interaction doesn't need to be avoided, but something that occurs organically and cozy, whether it's a warm embrace, shaking hands, or simply sitting nearby without feeling uncomfortable. These tiny gestures foster intimacy and trust. If someone constantly stays away from them, which is an indication that something is amiss, don't be hesitant to pose the difficult queries and if required, make the difficult. Life is too brief to make poor choices. Surrounded by those who maintain a distance in actuality, and metaphorically, they vanish when you need assistance. Let's be honest, nothing exposes the actual character of like a crisis in a relationship. When things are difficult, you discover what does it say that true friends are? About someone when they disappear, when you really need it, it's not just it is a neon warning symbol of flakiness, that they don't care as much about you as you may have imagined. Let's be honest, when a disappearance act is performed, when you're at your lowest, it's not simply painful, I discovered betrayal the hard way. During a very difficult time I was coping with a significant personal. Something that truly shocked me was, naturally, I went to the individuals at the center. I thought of close friends who were expecting little assistance, even if it was merely a brief phone call or text. But suppose what crickets the individuals I assumed would be there for me at any time, having all excuse in the book, because I'm really busy with I apologize, but I'm just very busy at work. Spoiler alert, I'll check in with you later. Alert, they didn't, and this is where it gets contentious. People enjoy talking about regarding their unwavering support for you, but when things become tough, they merely exist to enjoy the good times. They'll join you for a party and laugh with you, and take pleasure in life's high points. However, as soon as things become actual, it is easier for them to be nowhere to be found. To ignore you rather than address your suffering or uneasiness, they wish to avoid drawn into your issues, due to the fact that they don't care enough to be there, so they're down. Let's be ruthless when it matters. Sincere, genuine assistance isn't about convenience, means being present when something is uncomfortable, and whenever you don't want to do it. Those who vanish when you need them, most of them are not merely they're being careless with you, precisely where they are in their lives. Without using words, they're stating that I remember, that troubles aren't worth my time. Felt completely devastated when I discovered that the individuals I had visited, because of their previous breaks, their career and family dramas, setbacks, weren't worth going back to the favor. It served as a reminder rather than a pleasant one. But it was also a lesson I needs to understand. Not everyone who smiles in your face is actually in your corner. The deep message support is available here. The basis of any significant being in a relationship is easy when everything is good, but the actual relationship's litmus test is how people react when things start to go wrong. If when you need someone, they vanish. They aren't simply failing you. As they demonstrate to you, they were never actually there first. But don't be resentful of their absence. Allow it to improve your utilization of it as a filter to eliminate those who don't, the ones who deserve a place in your life, who remain, who check in, who seem. Despite the inconvenience, those are the individuals who are actually important, and those are the relationships that you should have with. In the end, life is about nurturing and cherishing. Too short to make a fair-weather investment. Friends, surround yourself with others who will support you during the storm. Simply enjoy the sunshine, since when you come across those uncommon people who, when the chips are down, stay put, you've discovered something valuable. Regarding those who vanish, they've already demonstrated their accurate colors. 7 are chatting about you. Behind your back, rumors are a social toxicity that spreads more quickly than wildfire. It has the potential to destroy relationships in an immediately. The problem with gossip is that never is it as innocent as people think. Appears when someone you regard as a friend who speaks behind your back is sharing an innocuous tale is not enough. They are deliberately undermining your confidence, your standing, and your connection. And let's be honest, it's obvious when someone is spreading rumors about you, that no matter what, they don't respect you. The friendliness with which they greet you. I've been the focus of rumors in the past, and I can assure you that it's among the greatest heartbreaking encounters. When I told someone about myself, I said to be a close friend regarding a personal matter, I had to vent about reduce the amount of weight I was carrying. And I believed that this individual would maintain it between us. But the specifics of that discussion began to spread. Distorted and exaggerated, resembling a telephone game. Excluding the message wasn't simply disappearing. It was being used as a weapon against me. The individual I trusted had transformed my susceptibility into, for others' amusement, those who gossip about the contentious truth. Because you're not merely sharing or complaining worries that they're engaging in a power struggle. They use rumor as a means of elevating themselves while demeaning you without needing to face you. Straightforwardly, it's manipulative and cowardly, and it's poisonous. They're doing more than harm. They're harming your reputation, basic basis of confidence that any genuine connection is based on. So let's get one thing about gossiping straight, folks. You'll hear rumors about other people. To others, it's a pattern rather than I've also witnessed it happen once. To count the number of people who adore suddenly spill the tea over everyone else. I suppose it becomes silent when they are present. They're most likely spilling your tea. When you are absent, it is a betrayal, the deadliest sort, since it's carried out in the darkness without offering you an opportunity to protect oneself or even to understand what's being said. This is where it becomes really intimate. I recall facing the friend who spread rumors about me, anticipating an apology of some kind or, at least, an explanation, but they took action instead, as if dismissing it was not a huge concern. as brief, innocuous conversation, but the issue about gossip is that it's never innocuous. It's blatantly betrayed and straightforward, and it reveals far more about the person disseminating it as opposed to the individual it concerns.